Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco dish on the movies. Today we are reviewing the Blair Witch Project, which I had never seen before. And since we watched this horrible Chauncey movie yesterday, which I think they're trying to copy the Blair Witch Project, Marco thought I should watch this one, which was an established quote movie, to compare. So basically, if you wanted to watch a scary movie, I guess this would be scary. I just don't understand. You have three people, two boys and a girl, and they're filming, and they're doing it's the girl, I guess, who really is the one who, it's her project. And they came along, the two guys, and the girl's name is Heather, and then Josh and Ben.
Oh!
What's the other guy's name? Joe?
No.
What's his name? I don't have my note. No, wait, do I?
Something
No.
that rhymes with...
It's a 3-letter word.
No, it's not.
I thought it was.
No, it's a 4-letter word. It starts with M.
Mike.
Wow, that took a lot for you to do.
And they were prepared for the trip. They went and got supplies. They showed the supplies.
Yeah, talk about, like, in what ways this differed from Woods Witch in terms of, all the things that this movie did better.
They looked prepared. It was very organized, at least at the beginning. Well, actually, the movie's organized, totally. But, to prepare for a trip, they actually show their preparations. It was very brief, but I mean, why does it have to be anything more than brief? They had maps, they had a compass, they had proper flashlights, they had proper gear, meaning tent, that all three of them could fit in. There weren't multiple characters who would pop up all over the place. What else? They had their backpacks, they had proper clothing. They weren't wearing, a girl wasn't wearing a halter top, which is bizarre when you're hiking, to wear a halter top. I guess, well, if you...
Yeah, you never talked about the clothes that they wore in that movie, and that was one of the things that pissed you off about Woods Witch, was they were wearing, clothes that you wouldn't wear to go hiking.
Well, they suddenly appeared in that movie with down coats, like jackets. I don't know where they came from. They had heavy backpacks. They had proper camera equipment.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this is an established movie. They may have had more money to work with. And I don't know who did the movie.
This wasn't an established movie. It was an indie movie.
An indie movie, okay.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was organized. They had a plan. And, they interviewed people in the beginning. They found out that there's some kind of witch in the woods.
Sophie was not paying attention, though, so she did not get all the information from the beginning. She frequently...
I was dusting Marco's shelves.
No, that was yesterday when you were not doing anything.
Well, I didn't know if we were really going to review this movie or not.
Yeah, you did. I said we were
for a million years.
I said we were going to.
Marco was freaked out because I had never seen it. And I'd never been interested in seeing it, frankly.
Well, you have to say what you thought about it.
Well, after all their preparation, I mean, she even had a guide, a hiking guide to the backcountry, something like that. And she had marked places, you could see it, and gone through it. So it's not like they were just having a day at the park, which is what the other film did. I mean, I don't know what they were doing. And they were planning. They had their supplies, they had everything. And they had maps, compass, water, proper clothing, a tent that would fit all three. They had everything. And and because of the maps, I mean, and what they were doing, they were just what were they gonna do? I don't know how many nights they had planned to be there. Probably not a lot. They didn't have supplies for very many days, which I didn't get that. maybe a couple of days at the most. So they had a definite plan. They're gonna go so far, and then they were gonna come back. And they came in a car. They parked it in the public parking lot. And so it was very organized.
One of the things that I thought was weird that I noticed at the beginning. You gonna do that, Safi? This whole video?
I'm drinking water.
One of the weird things that I thought was that, and I don't know why they did this. I mean, there's a lot of questions. I think that this movie, one of the reasons why it's so popular is because it leaves you with a lot of questions.
Well, yeah.
And normally in horror movies, they answer, like, most of the questions for you. Like, in Halloween, who's the killer? Michael Myers? Where is he? Haddonfield? Is he the boogeyman? I guess so. And, they answer all the questions, but in this movie they don't really answer any. But one of the questions I had, and I wonder, people really, really take this movie seriously, and they have like every fan fiction you can think of. They have every sort of like theory about the movie you can think of, all the way down to there's a theory, Safi, you're gonna love this. There's a theory that Josh and Mike are the killers, and they were.
No, I don't agree.
They lured Heather out into the woods, and they screwed around with her, and they killed her at the very end.
No.
That's the theory. And that I thought, like, wow, this is why, and this is one of the downsides of when you have a movie or a show, and you purposefully don't answer any of the questions, and you leave everything really open-ended, and you don't really, like, commit to anything, is because you'll get some of the weirdest theories you can think of, and they don't really make sense at all.
Well, they want to think of everything, though, to explain it. So they come up with everything that you can think
Well,
of.
no, but they think this one's a really smart theory.
No, I don't agree.
And I don't know.
What's so funny is, though, they're so well planned, I believe, and organized. I mean, they have an idea of what they're doing. They did all this research, and they're all prepared. But then after being there, after the second night, when they heard noises and they freaked out and ran out of their tents like stupid idiots, their brains turned to jello. And it's like they just stopped thinking. And they decided, they're going to go south and just head south. And we studied the map that they had, a couple of maps, actually.
Well, let's not get to that yet. I haven't even gotten to ask my question yet because you took over.
Okay, well, I don't understand.
We're not there yet.
How could they be so organized and then turn jello? It was almost like a coin, where one side was black and the other side was, it had turned black or dirtied, muddied, and the other side was perfectly clean and drawn. I just don't get it.
Well, anyways, back to the question I was trying to ask like 5 minutes ago. At the beginning of the movie, before they even get into the woods, one of them leaves their water bottle on top of the car.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And I was like, why are they doing that?
Like, what kind of water bottle?
A regular water bottle, like a water bottle that you could get in the other room. They left it on top of the car. and I think it was like half full. It was like a little bit more than half full, and I was like, what's up with that? Like, is that some sort of like, because they know what their car is, they know the license plate, or they should. I mean, like, why would they need to leave a water bottle on top of the car?
They did it deliberately?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they left it on there and they walked away, and she was videotaping walking away from the car, and showing the water bottle on there. It's like, why would they do that? Like,
I don't know. I think that's odd.
yeah, what is that? Like, is that some sort of a sign? No. I don't see anything. I don't see anything about it. There's nothing about, like, oh, if you leave your water bottle on top of a car, then people will come get you. So I didn't get that. That was one of the... And I was surprised that I never noticed that before. This was the first time I ever noticed it. So...
Well, that's interesting, because she could have read that in that book. About leaving a water bottle on the...
It doesn't make sense. You don't have
that water, though.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense.
At all.
There's other things that she probably could do. Like one video was this real?
Oh, don't get into some kind of YouTube video. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Markers with that made an arrow and did stuff like that.
Okay, let's get back to the movie.
Well, I know that, but I couldn't believe it. It was like two different types of movies. And I know it's supposed to be a horror movie, and it was more of a horror movie than that other piece of garbage that we watched. The other movie was just so childish and juvenile and just totally unprofessional. And this one at least had some semblance of a story and horror, actual horror, although I don't understand their decision making, how it turned to fluff and jello.
Well, there's a theory that the witch controls the woods, so like no matter what they could do, she would just like put them somewhere else or control it to where the woods changed or something. And it's like it really doesn't make sense. It would make sense if they stepped into a time warp, which is another theory. There's a theory that like they travel back in time by stepping into a time warp, and that's why the house is there at the end and everything. But again, I don't believe it. I think that they're just lost and they're stupid, and that's enough. But since it's so open-ended, a lot of people suspect like the witch is changing everything constantly.
I don't believe it.
And it's
giving
like
her more credit than she deserves.
And it's like, she is a powerful, scary, evil witch who can do shit, but how can she change the earth? Like, how can she
the direction of the river?
How can she manipulate the earth, like with her powers? Like, if witches could do that, the world would be destroyed by now. Like, if witches had the ability to manipulate the earth, and especially in a situation where, like, she's one of those witches where people didn't like her in the town, and I guess they put her to death or whatever, they just hung her up on a tree until she died, and so, like, she didn't have any power to do anything, but then when she's a witch, as a ghost, she can, like, manipulate the earth's structure. And that doesn't make sense at all.
No, it doesn't. And it's true. They could be so. I guess they could just, as much as you thought that they were prepared, they really weren't, because I mean, there's just all kinds of things. They don't even try to find anything to eat. They've got a creek.
No.
They don't try to find any fish or anything that could be in that creek. They don't even try to get water now. What they say about hiking, even if you don't have any food, you have to have water
to
survive. And
they don't even drink their wee wee.
They don't drink anything. I know that sounds funny, but that's been done. And I mean, we've even seen the fictional Better Call Saul.
Bear Grylls.
When they had,
in real life, Bear Grylls.
Where they did that.
And not in the Blair Witch Project. They're just sitting around like, I want to have pumpkin pie when I get home. I want to have mashed potatoes when I get home. And I was like, the Blair Witch is coming to get you. Why don't you worry about that?
Because that's what I'm saying. It's incongruous. It's inexplicable. I just don't get it. And one of the guys, he resorts to eating a leaf, not a fresh leaf that you could chew on, a dried leaf. So I mean, they don't even know what they could eat in the woods. They didn't even look up.
That's pretty bad.
They don't look up to see what happens if they run out of food and water. What do you do to survive?
And when this came out, people genuinely thought it was real. They thought this was a real thing because they did this really good marketing campaign to promote the movie where people actually thought these 3 people went missing and this was the footage they found. And I just think, like, if people really thought it was real still to this day, you know what they'd be saying nowadays? Like, these are 3 idiots, and they're stupid, and this is what they get. You know, like,
people do say that.
There's been, like, tons of instances of this, and I've seen it all over YouTube. And, you know, sometimes when they're really stupid, like, people will just call them stupid. You know, it's like, it's not all the time like, I really hope they're okay or they're found or whatever. Like, no, there's a lot of the times where people are like, God, that person was the stupidest idiot on the planet. And in this case, there were just a lot, it took you out of the horror too. Because there was a lot of creepy, scary stuff in the movie, especially if you watched it like at nighttime in like a good location or something. But like there's a lot of questions that you have that kind of take you out of the horror. And one of the biggest questions for me was like, where did they go? Because like we saw the map, I guess, or we saw one of the maps. And
we
like
studied the map too.
Yeah, we tried to study it. They're very confusing looking.
Well, it's a survey map. And
yeah.
The way they do maps is different. They show elevation and with squiggly, circly lines. And
there's a couple of questions that you have to ask yourself. And I know that people are going to get mad because they're going to think like you're really picking this movie apart. No, we're just discussing it because it's, you know, that's what this movie does. It makes you want to discuss. It makes you want to theorize and try to figure out the movie.
Well, also, back to when they did the research, Marco said they heard about this house.
No, we're not there yet. We're not getting there yet. I'm trying to make a point here, and as usual, you're just completely...
Okay, well, let me know when we get to that point.
Oh, well, that's a long way away, Safi. As usual with you, though. But one of the things, those that, like, where did they go to on the map? Like, what was their path that they traveled on? Because if you look at the map, it makes them look even stupider than anything else. Because you look at the map, and they went all the way to the north to the Coffin Rock. That was their ultimate, I guess that was their ultimate goal. That was another thing that was like,
Did they show a map that shows what they did?
No.
See, they should have done that, I think. What did they do? I mean, through the whole movie.
Yeah, like, what was their trail? Because, like...
I've liked to see that.
They started off at the Old Mill Road, I think, or the Black Rock Road. And they okay, it was the Black Rock Road. They have Carr on this map. So they started off there. And now this is strange, because if you look at the map, the house of Rustin Parr would have been right in that direction where they started off in.
So it would have been on the way.
Yeah, so how did they not pass Rustin's house on the way to the Coffin Rock? Or, like, did they... Because they went on a trail, and there's only one trail here. So did they go all the way east to that trail, and then go north, and then go west to go to Coffin Rock? I mean, that's an idiotic thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
And then, like, what direction did they go to? Like, because in all of these situations, I just think, like, how did they not come across the serial killer's house at all? Number one. And number two, after they heard all about the Rustin Parr thing, why wouldn't they want to at least go to that house in the daytime? Like, why did they have a plan to visit that house? Because, like, I guess we can get there now, early. Because when they get to Rustin Parr's house at the very end, they don't even say anything about this being his house. They don't even say anything about, like, oh my God, this is the house. This is the Rustin Parr house. Ah! You know, like, they don't even say anything like that. They're like, oh no, we hear Josh inside the house screaming in horrible misery and pain. So you know what we should do? We should go in there. If there's some evil ass witch in this house, like, let's go in there. Let's see what's going on in there. You know, and they go in there, and that's...
I say, their brains turn to jello.
Yeah, like, but like at no point, even inside the house, are they like, oh my God, this is the house. Like, there's no comment about, like, there's no acknowledgement of this is the house. It's like, what's up with that?
I don't know. That's why I said that they don't... It's like they lost all of their thought processes. I know they haven't had anything to drink or eat. And of course that would affect them. But still, they should have known how to survive. And you think that they would... You have an instinct to survive, too. It isn't just a matter of knowledge about what you do. But they're doing hiking. Even though they're filming and it's a film project, it's still a hike to do what they do. And like Marco said, it looks like they went way out of their way.
The Rustin Parr house is in basically the center of the place. It's like in the very center, a little bit off center, and like, how did they never... Like, what was their pathway?
It would have been like the first thing they saw.
Yeah, but no, I said maybe they went to the east, and then they went north, and then they went west, and then they just fucked around, and, like, it doesn't make sense. Unless you take into consideration that maybe this witch can alter the earth.
That's just stupid and
like,
ridiculous.
Because that's another thing, like, how did, and this is, I know that this
the
is...
The witch is laughing at you, okay?
Yeah, this is being picky, though. Like, how did the people even how were they even able to get through the woods to make the survey map if this witch is in there? She's been there since the 17 whatevers, and she's changing the earth around you. Like, how was someone able to go in there and make this map for people in the first place?
Yeah, and they go all over, and that's how they make the map.
Yeah.
They have to, because you have the elevations on it. You can see even what he has. There's elevations. Not much. It's mainly flat. That's what it looks like. But, anyway, it's still a better movie.
No, it's a much better movie, and we're not saying that because there are these things, these questions, that it's a bad movie.
No,
it's just
leaves
that
you wanting to talk about it
yeah.
and try to figure out what they did.
Because I would say it's
why they did it or didn't do it.
It's a very good movie. It's a very creative movie.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is just so much better than all the movies coming out nowadays. Like, especially all the horror movies, because like, even though you never see the witch, I think a lot of people were able to, like, picture the witch in their heads and come up with their own, like, creepy picture of her. And, but I mean, there was room for improvement. Like, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie, but it was so creative, I think, that, like, because, like, this was, like, one of the first found footage movies. It wasn't the first one, but it was one of the first ones. And you have to give it a little bit of slack and also a little bit of credit because, they did a really good job with the limited resources that they had. They had really good actors, too. That's another thing. They weren't annoying.
They were professional.
They were very real. They felt like real people.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were all kind of funny, though. Like, there was this one part, basically, most of this movie, Safi was sitting there saying, why don't they follow the river?
That just drove me nuts.
Why don't they follow
if they
the river?
Witch change the effing landscape. They can't change the river.
No, she can, I guess.
No,
she can
bullshit.
change the river. She
Yes.
can take the river and she can put it over there. Or she can put it over there.
That's bull.
Because the witch, she can just do anything because she's that powerful, apparently. Like,
they just got lost, and they
they
freaked
got
out.
lost.
Instead of using their heads, they just kept freaking out, and it got worse and worse and worse. And it was like catching, because Josh freaked out first. I mean, he almost went insane, and he was almost violent, insane to the point of being violent, because she was doing the filming. It is a film project, and she's trying to document everything. And he got mad at her because they were lost.
Well, also, I honestly,
and his stuff got messed up.
Well, we'll talk about that. We haven't gotten to that yet, but the stupidest thing I would say that anyone in this movie did, and I'm sure people have probably talked about this to death, was Mike throwing away the map. And he said, I kicked it in the river. Ha 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 ha. It was useless. Ha ha ha. And it's like, ugh.
That's what I said.
Ugh.
How is that explicable? It isn't to me.
Well, it could be explained that maybe the witch possessed him and she possessed him into doing that.
Oh my God.
But,
now we're writing the story like usual.
Yeah. Well, it's because at the beginning of the film they suggest that maybe that guy who's the serial killer, Rustin, maybe the witch possessed him into killing the kids in the forest. Like, so that's why he was a serial killer in the first place.
Well,
so
what happened to him? Did he go to prison? Did he?
Yeah, and that's another thing. They caught him. Well, they talked about it at the beginning, and you didn't pay attention, but they caught him, and he went to prison, and he got put to death.
Oh, so he was gone from the scene. So I mean, they didn't have to worry about him.
But that's
hearing.
But therein lies more questions, because if this witch just kills anyone who comes into the forest,
why?
Then because she's pissed off at everyone because they killed her. It's the typical witch thing. But why didn't she kill the serial killer? Like, why wouldn't she also kill him then? Like, because he has a house. He said, like, I'm not just going to walk through the woods one day and smoke a joint and look at a dirty magazine. I'm gonna live in the middle of these woods with you. So, like, it really begs the question of if he was possessed or not, because if he wasn't, then it's really strange that the witch wouldn't have killed him. Like, because he's living right there in the center of the forest that she is living in. And so there's that. What do you think of that, Safi? I mean, isn't that kind of bizarre?
I don't know. That's what I mean. We're just making up theories and stories. And maybe
that's all you can do.
Well, I was going to say maybe that's what they want you to do, because then it gives people talking about it. And that's what they... Because it is a very basic movie. And it's creative. It's, like you said, it's a found footage movie, so... And it's a horror movie. And, a lot of people were talking about it, I remember, but... It didn't look, after watching that terrible movie and then watching this, I mean, that was okay for me. Back then, though, I wasn't interested in it at all. What's that green line represent?
That's something else.
Oh.
That's not their pathway. But yeah, there was one part in the movie too where like Heather's just like glaring off into space, and I just thought like, why does she look like that? Like, is she just like I'm just like, there's so many points in the second half of this movie where like the characters, they do things and they act in a certain way where you're like, what is going on here? Like she looks like she's about to kill someone or something. It's like, I don't know.
Well,
remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, that was hilarious. That was probably the funniest part of the movie. She's just like, yeah, like randomly out of nowhere. And actually, she would have been a good witch.
Yeah.
The actress, you know, she would have made for a good witch herself. So, there's that.
Yeah, they could have made a story that she was related to the witch, but she didn't tell those boys.
Apparently, there is some kind of fan fiction thing where she was having visions of the witch prior to going there to film, but I don't believe that because they kind of acted like they kind of acted like the witch didn't exist. Like it was kind of because there was
they weren't taking it seriously.
Well, there was never any point in the movie where they actually took the witch seriously. And they said, like, okay, what do we do to defeat this witch? Or how do we survive and get out of here, considering that the witch is coming for us? There's never any point where they talk about that or anything. They're just talking about, like, when I go home, I want to have cigarettes.
Yeah.
If I don't die from the Blair Witch, I want to die of lung cancer instead. And so, but another WTF thing was that at a point in the movie, Safi's favorite part, all of a sudden they heard these children outside at night, and they sounded like they were happy too. That was kind of strange. And they attacked.
They started freaking out.
No, they attacked their tent. The children did, and they started like tapping on the tent and things like that. And so all of a sudden they all get out and run away,
which is unbelievably ridiculous.
Yeah. But, what's ridiculous about it is that, okay, the children are there, but, like, if the children were killed by the serial killer and these are just innocent children, then that means that the witch turned them to the dark side after they were, after they were dead. Like, these children that, like, they have, like, They get lured to this house in the middle of the woods that this film crew can't find until it's convenient at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And the children are then killed, and then the witch is like, okay, children, you want to join the witch's side now? Like, is that what happened? Like, I don't understand, like, because if I were them, I would want to talk to the ghosts of the children, because I would want to ask them how to get out of there.
Well,
you know, like the ghosts of the children could have helped them. Like, they weren't, how were they evil? Or why were they evil?
How many kids were supposedly killed?
I can't, look it up, Safi. It's all over the internet.
I'll look it up after.
But, like, those children, I don't understand, like, why were they working with the witch or anything like that, you know? Like, that didn't make sense.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I know. It's just something else. I don't know.
Because then the next day, they fucked with their tent. They fucked with all of Josh's stuff in particular. And they put slime all over it, which that was fun, because, you know, that's
usually they have that, even on Ghostbusters.
Yeah, which we'll be watching.
Yeah, I can't wait.
And so then Josh is actually taken out of nowhere in the middle of the night, and he is tortured and killed later on. So, like, these children, I guess, they help the witch get people? or something. Like they also do crafts. Like, did the witch have like an arts and crafts lesson? Like, did she take these kids and be like, "Okay, children,
Well, that's another
we
thing.
gotta do the creepy crafts now"?
It is somebody living in the woods, because this isn't explained. I mean, it's not explicable, non-explicable. They come to this area and they didn't see it before. So I don't know if they really didn't see it before, or or it was put up after it was found they were there. Whoever was living in the woods, but there was a ton of these, and they have these in American Horror Story. They're kind of like figures made out of straw into the shape of like dolls, but they're very and they're all about the same, and there were tons of them, but some of them were really big, and it was almost like a and didn't they talk about a cemetery? They had walked through a cemetery. Didn't they show a cemetery like at the beginning?
Yeah.
And they walked on, and this was
that was where all the children were buried.
Oh, well, this was before. I don't know why that would be. Why they would do that? That doesn't even make any sense to me.
What?
People's missing children were buried in some nondescript cemetery in the woods.
No, these children. I guess the children's bodies were found. No, they weren't buried in the woods. They weren't in the woods yet. This was at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
when they were in
I
town.
that all of a sudden with the cemetery. But anyway, later on, when Josh, right before he gets taken away, they come upon this area and they hadn't seen it before. And they'd already been there, I think, a night and a day. That was another thing. That was a little hard to keep track of how long they were actually there.
Yeah.
And I was trying to keep track of it, but that was a little confusing to me. But they don't find just one or two of these figures, and they're way up high in the like under a tree, or I don't know. It's not. They're not like at knee level where you're walking along and somebody made something and they put it on a stick and it was right there and you could knock it over with your feet while you're hiking. They were way up high all over the place. So somebody had to gone to the trouble first to make them and then put them up.
Mm-hmm.
And when?
I don't know.
So there is somebody there.
And they're putting stuff outside their tents too every night.
Yeah,
like
the bundle of sticks.
Rock piles.
That are put together, like together with a string, but it's not like a straight string where it's perfectly circling around it. It's weaved in there.
Well, there's three possibilities. Number one, if the witch possessed that killer, Rustin, then she could possess other people, so she could be possessing someone. For instance, that woman at the beginning of the movie, Mary, who actually saw the witch and had an encounter with her, she could be possessing her, and that's who's screwing with them. But that would beg the question of, like, well, those two guys are really big guys, so they should have been able to fuck with her. And,
they had weak minds.
well, I don't know, but like, so that could be a thing going on. Number two, again, the witch is teaching these children how to do arts and crafts in the spirit world, and they are told, okay, they're almost gonna wake up. You better get over there and put up the crafts and art stuff. You better go hang the sticks up, or else I'm gonna do something to you in the spirit world that's not explained.
And what do they do? Fly?
Yeah.
Fly through the air and...
Well, I think they do say that the witch can float and she can fly and shit, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because these things are high up. They're not, like you're going to walk into them, like a fence post or weeds or something. They're high up.
And the reason why I said that thing with the first thing was when they went to that Mary's house, she had that intricate gate that was made out of sticks and things.
Oh.
So she could be the one doing it. She could be the killer. Or she could be one of the killers.
Yeah.
There's another thing. It could be anything. Because, like, there's really no hint or clue. Obviously the witch is doing something. Because, like, people get killed in these woods, I guess, all the time. And then, you have other people like Rustin, and he can just live in the middle of the forest with the witch, and the witch doesn't care.
Yeah, but he's close to the road. He's not that far from the road, according to the map. It's not like the house is hidden deep in the woods.
Well, it's in the center of the woods, though.
It didn't look like the center to me.
Yeah. Safi, what are you doing?
Scratching.
Okay, why don't you review?
My poor allergy. Well, I'm listening to what you're saying. What you want me to do? You don't want me to talk, so.
Yeah, I do. What else do you want to... What else?
I don't know what else to say. I just... it's funny that they missed this house because it's such an, like, obvious place. And it's not that far. I mean, they would have... If they had walked in that direction to where they wanted to go, straight shot. But see, it's not a trail. It's not a designated trail there. That's the thing. So if you're inexperienced hikers, you wouldn't be going off trail like that. But they talk about being off trail. Remember that? Somewhere along, they talk about being... I'm like, why would they do that when they don't know what they're doing?
Well...
They don't really know what they're doing.
They wanted to get to that Coffin Rock and then, I guess, go back. There was no discussion of like, oh yeah, we need to go to the serial killer's house too.
I was say, they weren't planning to go there.
No. So, which is kind of weird because, you know, if they were doing a documentary about that, you'd think that they'd want to get that as a part of the footage.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
I don't either.
And they also torture Josh, and this is another thing. They torture him off camera, and they pull out his teeth, and there's a lot of blood everywhere, and they
the teeth. They found a tooth.
They put no, there's teeth, and they put it in this little craft bag, that they put in front of the tent. And again, at this point, Heather and Mike, they're just like completely not like interested in like, wait a second, somebody or some people tortured him and did this to him, and they got to us, and so what should we be doing to react to that as well as getting out of here?
There's no thinking at all. That's
No.
what I said. None.
But Heather does make her famous apology video, which I think, like, it would be funny, you know, all these people who make their little apology videos on YouTube, like these people who are in danger of getting canceled. It would be really funny if they just mimicked what she was doing, like where they're filming up their nose and they're like, I'm so sorry about everything, ma. Right?
I guess.
Because, like, why should she be sorry about the Blair Witch killing everyone? Like, I don't get that.
Well, no, she was sorry because she brought those boys there because it was her project. And,
well, they agreed to it, so that's their problem.
She felt responsible, though. She said that.
Like, you know, the people who got onto the Titanic, that's their fault, you know. They weren't forced to go on there.
Well, because they took it for granted that they would have enough lifeboats, and that they're also very classist with the people at the bottom and then the people at the top, like they weren't equivalent beings. Which was not. It's the same thing. You entrusted the people who were driving. We're not going to talk about the Titanic, but you entrusted the people who were navigating the ship, who were in charge of the ship, the staff, the crew. to do the right thing, that they were experienced enough to do the right thing. And they were full of the captain was full of himself. And like that submarine, or whatever you want to call it, not submarine, but that submersible thing, accident that happened. When did that happen? In June or whatever. And it was the same attitude. And anyway, I don't know how we got onto that. But.
Well, what I would like to know is if Heather still had the map, would they have been able to make it out of there?
That's a good question.
Because I don't buy the theory that the witch can change the earth.
I don't either.
So.
And I don't understand why the guy threw the map in the water. Why he would do that. Because maybe he couldn't use it, or he didn't think it was valuable. Didn't mean that it was like that. That they could have figured it out.
Okay, Safi, don't do that anymore.
Okay, well, they could have figured it out better. Or somebody else could have figured it out better. Maybe her. Because she was the one, at least I thought, it looked like she was the most prepared. But it was her project. So it seemed like, and they all acted like they'd been backpacking or hiking before. But then they didn't act like they knew what they had to do to survive. And I'm not talking about surviving a witch. I'm talking about basic survival, like water and food.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you have to say, Safi? What about the ending?
And the ending is, Josh is missing, and they think they hear him yelling. Now, she found his teeth, so I thought it was just one tooth. Mark was saying it was several. So, I don't know. I guess you wouldn't assume the worst. I don't know.
You would. Why would there be teeth that are wrapped up in something that's put outside your tent?
Him yelling then?
Well, no. Why would
they go into that creepy house?
Yeah, and why would they want to go towards the sound of his voice?
I didn't think the sound of his voice was coming from inside the house at all.
Well, apparently it was.
First they go upstairs, and then he decides to break away from her and go downstairs, and she's stuck up there, and then you end the video with her screaming, and these horrible screams. And he's down in the basement, and you see, because that's where he wanted to go, he said, well, he's down, he must be down here. And then he drops the camera, and then it's jiggly or something. And then that's it.
Well, he's also standing in the corner, which is what Rustin would make his victims do. But that just begs the question of, like, well, okay, there's a lot of questions for that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the difference between this movie and that movie. This movie was scarier, but scarier in two ways. Scarier because there is something in the woods, because they made all those figures. Somebody made them. And there's tons of them. And the other scarier is that they don't know how to survive. They have no basic... in fact, it's like they don't even have the instinct to survive. Their instinct is to cry out and lash out and first get angry, get mad, and then act like that they're so scared that they can't move. Or they go to a former serial killer's house in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Just really stupid stuff.
Well, I would say that some of the things that could have been improved are just like more scares, more stuff going on. Because, like, even though I didn't need to see the witch, maybe we could have seen other things. Like, maybe we could have seen the ghost of the serial killer. Or maybe we could have seen children or something like that. Like, it's just something. Instead of just Heather's face and she's making weird faces, and then you got Mike and he's eating leaves and shit, and it's like, what? Because there's one point where she sees something off camera. I mean, there are points where they see stuff that, like, it's a lot worse, I guess, than what we're seeing. But we never get to see any of that. And that's another thing, though. Like, if they're seeing more than what we're seeing, then why aren't they discussing that the next day and saying, okay, how do we really get out of here and also survive these supernatural things that are getting to us? You know, there's no discussion of that. It's just, should we go east today? Should we go west today? Should we go north today? Should we go south today? I don't know.
Yeah. So,
Sophie?
this was a better movie.
What about your food review?
My food review, I guess we're having chicken enchiladas, and I guess it would be an enchilada without the chicken, with the beans. Maybe you put the chicken, but you wouldn't have the sauce or something. You would leave some stuff out because half of it was, planned and organized, and the other half was reactionary. It's just reacting to what they see and hear. And then, like Marco said, maybe they saw more things than we did, but why didn't they talk about it?
No.
And so we're really spared that. So, and then they just, they end it in a negative way. I mean, there's nothing positive about it either. That's another thing. A lot of people like some kind of positive ending. And that maybe is a realistic thing to think, but people do like that. But there have been hikers who've disappeared. They were murdered. They just disappear. They don't find them till years later. Then what they find is bones and scraps of fabric, and they don't find them anywhere near where they were looking, or they find them in the area they were looking. There was a storm. I mean, there's so many things. And this thing it ends in a negative way. You hear this horrible screaming. And, he's in the basement and she's upstairs, so, I mean, you never see anything. You just see the camera being dropped. And then you see what happens, the weird kind of fizzly image. And so, I guess I'll give it a chicken enchilada, but without the sauce, maybe. And just with the filling, and like the sauce, there could have been more sauce or sauce put on it, which there's supposed to be. And just not in it, because of what's missing from the movie, what they could have done to make it even better. But I think it was a good effort. I really do. And it was very organized and planned. They had a story in mind. They were creative in how they presented it. And that's good. And that compared to that other piece of crap we saw, where it was so amateurish, it was worse than amateurish. It's like they didn't even really make an effort.
No.
To do what they were doing. And this movie, there is an effort. So, go ahead.
Well, I can't remember. Didn't we go to some family reunion where we had to cook the food ourselves or something? Like they had all the meat and stuff out and you had to cook it yourself.
Was that up north in Wisconsin?
I don't know.
Family reunion?
But
I think it was.
There was some and just anything like a restaurant or something of where you have to cook the food. I don't really like that at all. When I go to a restaurant, I want them to cook the food because I'm getting their stuff. What?
That was in Ohio.
Yeah.
Those mounds?
Yeah. We went to some family reunion where we had to cook the food ourselves.
That's a thing there. That's what you do. It's not because it was of the reunion. They do that. That's what they do. You go to that place, you pick out the meat you want, the steak, whatever, and then you cook it yourself.
I can't even remember the food, and that's pretty bad because I have really good memory.
I think it was some kind of steak.
I just think, something like that. I don't know. But this
It was
that
weird.
that's what this movie is like. It's like you have to cook the food yourself. We're going to give you all these really good ingredients, these possible stories, possible things that could be going on, and you have to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't really like that. I think that, you know, it should be like half and half, or maybe a little bit more than half and half of like they tell you what's going on, and maybe there's a little bit of mystery here and there.
Yeah.
But they should know what's going on. They shouldn't like just leave it so open-ended, because then you have people saying like that Josh and Mike were conspiring to kill Heather for no reason at all. I mean, there's no motive there at all to kill Heather.
No.
Right?
No, that's a good review. I forgot all about that place. That's near those mounds. Ohio has some really unbelievable mounds and Indian mounds. You know, burial places. And this restaurant was near there. And that was some kind of family get together on my husband's side. I don't know why they decided to do that. I think some of them were from Iowa, and I don't know. I can't remember it that well, but yeah, I do remember having to. Everybody did it. That was something that this restaurant does. It's part of the attraction of it, which is bizarre. Anyway, that's it. So. If you've seen this movie, and tell us your thoughts about it, and don't watch Chauncey's. It's not worth it. Not worth your time.
And don't watch either sequel to this movie, because they're both terrible. The third one is the worst, because it's basically just ripping off this movie, but in a 10 times worse way. And the second one is just stupid. So, like,
if you
just
want to watch good hiking videos, watch.
no,
YouTube.
don't do that. Don't do that.
Anyway,
Sophie.
so, well, this was a good movie.
Yeah.
But this other Chauncey thing, don't do it. Don't waste your time, because he is, like I said, he's really good at asking for money. But, I mean, he's very enthusiastic and motivating, and you really want to help him. And then he doesn't, if he comes up with something like what we saw, which was so bad, that it's not worth your time and effort. So anyway.
I mean, that's the funny thing, is on his newer campaigns, he is putting the trailers to all these movies and descriptions inside the campaign as if he's bragging about, these are all the projects I've done, and they're all really, really good, and, you know, you can see the trailers right here, and it's like, if I were him, I wouldn't want people to see anything from these terrible movies they were donating to the newest one.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder what these people who are in these movies, what the actual quote actors, what they actually think about what they're doing.
I don't know. Well, it's just work to them.
Yeah, I guess if they get paid and get a free meal,
Yeah.
then and they live in the area. I mean, that's the thing. He lives in an area where there's actors are a dime a dozen. It's just the fact that some are good and some aren't. So, anyway, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.